very happy to see all of you tonight. My name is Katja Baponis. I'm an independent branding and marketing consultant, as well as a recovering e-commerce startup founder. And I'm, as Laurie just said, I'm a board observer with the MIT Enterprise of New York. And also tonight I'm your host together with Richard Weissman for our third installment of the Future of X think tank. And today the topic is retail. I'm really happy to see all of you here. It's a new space, and as we just learned, it's going to be our last Future of Retail think tank, so the seance setting will be repeated in January somewhere else. And I hope that I will see some of you again. Like, just a show of hands, like, has anybody here been here before for a Future of X think tank?
Yeah, how many repeat thinkers
yeah.
do we have?
Good to see you. Good to see you back. Good to see you back. It's wonderful. Yeah, remember when people thought that nobody would ever buy any clothes before they could put them on? And do you remember when they were thinking that the internet was for discounts only and nobody would buy anything remotely luxury? And think about when people would not even dream about using their smartphones and tablets to make purchases wherever they are, whenever they want. And case in point, like while you were all drinking your cocktail, I made 5 purchases on my iPhone because I can. It was only 3. It was only 3. Yeah, but and then also remember like how usually it was very strictly differentiated. It was either online, it was either brick and mortar, it was either clicks. And now even e-commerce pioneer Amazon has started dabbling in pop-up stores, and also they will be opening their first proper brick and mortar place just in time for the holidays in New York. And vice versa, brick and mortar centric department store Neiman Marcus just in September acquired German luxury retailer My Theresa. So these are just some of the examples how the minds of businesses have been changing, and how the differentiation between the online and the offline world has been merged, and then all the other examples of what will be happening. And that's why we are here tonight. That's why we're here tonight for the Future of Retail. Let me tell you a little bit about the format for those that haven't been here before. So it is a format that's, as you can see from the seance-like seat setting, it's not your normal panel. It's a think tank that depends on your participation, because it will only thrive if you participate, if you grab the mic, if you share what you have to say about retail. And to that end, we invite bright minds and bring them all together and put together all the future and current stakeholders of the retail industry. Like, there are fresh and seasoned innovators, there are entrepreneurs that are currently innovating the space, there are marketers and representatives from within the industry, and investors that provide the capital that can move the needle. And all are welcome. All are welcome to discuss with us what the future of retail may bring.
Most of you have the handout, which includes the outline that we provided ahead of time. It was online, just to sort of store our ideas for the range of topics that we wanted to talk about. We sort of group them into issues and challenges, promising solutions, and barriers, change resistance, that sort of thing. But we don't sort of structure it that way. Obviously, that sort of all comes together. The flow is, the past ones have been almost totally free form. We're going to try to add just a tiny bit of structure this time and see how it works. We've got trigger questions, and we're going to try and start out first with the challenges. If you look at retail today, what topics and challenges play the biggest role in retail, and of course both online and digital as well as brick and mortar. Then we'll get to emerging and best practices. What are the solutions and best practices you're using in your own work? What cool solutions have you seen emerge lately? Then we'll get into more breakthrough and radical ideas, things that may seem a little crazy, but what ideas and concepts have you seen that seem promising? what might change the game. Then we'll sort of start to wrap things up with synthesis, takeaways. What if you give you ideas on how we can put all of this diverse stuff that we talked about together to include retail, businesses, and then the last thing, just briefly, to comment on any surprises, any new or changed ideas you've had, what surprised you, what sparked new ideas, anything that changed your perspective, just to sort of put it all closely. So with that, everybody's going to get 1 minute. There's going to be a timekeeper. We'll hear a sound when it's a minute. We'll sort of wave. You'll get 10, 15 seconds to sort of wrap it up and turn it over to other speakers. The whole idea is we don't want monologues. This is an emergent dialogue. And if you keep going, it just sort of destroys that kind of dialogue. So we will enforce it.
Should I test it? So
Yeah,
can hear
you'll
it?
have to test that.
When you hear that, you have to wrap it up. We find it very valuable interesting. We're so happy that you're participating. You hear that noise, you wrap it up, and ideally you end what you have to say with a question to the rest of the group, so we can really keep a conversation going.
Because if you go too long, we'll use the nuclear option.
All right, so we have 2 mics. Just a second. And we have good experiences from the last times when you just kind of pass it around, and I will also help you. Yeah. Okay. 1 second. What did I have to trigger? Okay, so retail. What are today's biggest topics and challenges? Like, who wants to talk to that? Who wants to be the first?
I thought we had someone handling the mic.
Great. Hi, David Berkowitz with the agency MRY. So we work with a lot of brands, especially clients like Johnson & Johnson is a pretty prominent one now, and a number of others that are trying to sell their products through retail stores. And I think one of the biggest challenges is that there's a lot of excitement that now they can finally talk to the consumer and almost do the end run around retailers and have this direct relationship. But there have been so many fits and starts with this of trying to reach people, especially through mobile, and all these things that it's like, it sounds like the greatest thing since sliced bread, and then it doesn't go anywhere. Or it's something that, it's like some great service and they've got 100,000 subscribers and they don't hear from them a few months later. So that kind of thing, that there are a lot of ideas that kind of make sense for reaching people this way, and there's a lot of enthusiasm to do it, but trying to find the ways that are at scale, that do move product or at least influence those decisions. I think that's something that we're really looking for more answers for.
Hello, I'm Karen Kranick, User Experience Director at esteilauder.com. Just piggybacking on what you're talking about, I actually used to work at LBI and actually worked on J&J, and one of the issues with them is that they are a consumer packaged goods company trying to sell products that people can get almost anywhere. So that's a huge challenge, and they're very costly to ship. So that's really one of the big issues, is like shipping. Another big issue is sort of checkout, like sort of how do you sort of universally create a way for people to check out more easily. Everyone has passwords, accounts at different sites. Is there a way to sort of unify that? And something I'm thinking about a lot digitally.
Hi, I'm Barry Berman, the pet guy. I'd say one big challenge is how can technology enhance the inherent competitive advantages of brick and mortar? For example, relationship building with staff members, staff training, and you can probably think of some others.
Any other?
I'm Ted Spearing. I'm the founder and CEO of a startup in social commerce. We help people take a picture of themselves or a selfie. People share 100 million plus those a day now. Tag your products so that they can then be shared through social media, and then the people who see these can actually purchase them. And so actually tying into what you were saying, I think one of the issues retailers face is that they've siloed e-com from in-store, and that really you can combine the two in a very useful way, where you've got somebody in-store actually interacting with your product. They're probably already using a mobile device. They're probably sharing stuff online as they're doing this. And if you can actually connect the two so that you can drive e-com through what's happening in bricks and mortar, you can ultimately drive more revenue.
Aren't we supposed to end with a question?
Not necessary. If it works well, it's good, but it's not essential.
Hi, I'm Trey Bodge. I'm the consumer spokesperson for Retail Me Not. We're a coupon site, but I also talk a lot about lifestyle and brands. And I would love to hear from some of you out there how you rise above the noise. There are so many brands out there, and kind of there are the big guys, the little guys, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for everyone, but I think consumers are faced with this constant barrage of messages and social media. And what are some successes that some of you have experienced in rising above the noise?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm Richard Kestenbaum, our partner at Triangle Capital. We do mergers, acquisitions, and capital raising for companies in apparel, accessories, and retail. I'm looking at the words up there, the biggest topics and challenges, and I hate to sound like a Luddite, but I think the biggest challenge hasn't changed. It's about product. And do you have great product? Because what you're discussing here is the commoditization of communication, making it ubiquitous, reaching anybody at any time. And the question is, do you have substance to the message? And that's how you talk about, that's how you get around what you were just saying about being different from other people and making your message effective. And I think the way you do that is, what are you selling? What is the experience you're selling? What is the product you're selling? I was contacted earlier this week by a company. They sent me some product. I don't know if it works or not. They put coffee grinds in the sock somewhere. I don't know why. I don't know if it works. They're pretty comfortable. They sent me some shirts and slacks I haven't used yet. Apparently you can bike to work in these, oh, that's me. You can bike to work in these products, and we'll see if they work, but I think product is the thing, and if you've got that, everything else can follow, if you have the right resources.
My name is Omar Nabe. I'm from Reveal Analytics, where I did an analytic company. Primary focus when we started this company was on retail. Primarily because I spent several years at JCPenney, and later with GE Capital, I was responsible for global analytics. And a lot of retailers in the UK, Australia, across Europe were a client. And one of my primary jobs was basically to work with them in the marketing area. So we do technology, and we go to NSF to get a lot of funding. One of the areas we're focusing right now, primarily because our clients are coming to us in retail environment, is how do you match the requirement, let's say, in this particular case, the product, to the consumer, particularly what they want to know. How can we tell who will come to us before they get to us? So some of the technology we're trying to develop for them right now is telling them ahead of time who will come, where they're coming to buy, and basically how long they will stay in the store.
Hi, Roger Rishi. I'm a venture partner over at Sigma Prime Ventures. We're a venture capital firm, and we invest in the retail space. And I think one of the biggest challenges we're seeing is in the area of attribution. I think that there's a lot of investment going into advertising dollars and trying to tackle the consumer, trying to get access to the consumer. And I think everybody feels like they're making an impact. And I think that one of the biggest challenges in retail is to try to figure out how to do multi-dimensional attribution across every sale. And I think investment dollars go toward areas that are producing results, and everything impacts results, but typically it's the final sale that actually gets the dollars. How to affect that is going to have massive change, I think, in the industry. I'd like to figure out how that's done.
Hello, my name is Janet Valenza. I own a company called Pop-Up Artists. We build partnerships between online and offline retail, and what we basically do is deal with an issue, showrooming, that works against bricks and mortar retailers by turning it into an advantage for them. We bring an e-commerce brand in the form of samples into a store, and the store staff sells off those samples from the brand's website. So showrooming, I think, is a huge issue for retailers, and that this is one way that they can make it work for them. Huge issue for bricks and mortar retailers, and this is one way that they can make it work for them.
Jason Liu, I'm chairman of the General Network Service Inc. We specialize in intellectual capital development, deployment, and commercialization. I think the biggest issue and the topics is that once we move beyond this technology and mass distribution for commodity product, essentially is the power and owner structure and the supporting network to optimize for the value delivered. For example, the human being has this kind of creative survival instinct. The company local retail centers will optimize their local community environment to maximize their profit individually. That kind of customization by the owner and with the incentive to have the ability to originate ideas would be an issue and interest.
I think we're ready to, I think we'll move on to the next thing.
No, please. Could you pass it to the...
I can probably go without a mic.
No, we need it for that.
I'll go with the mic.
You have a good voice, though. Yes.
Hi, my name is Greg Spielberg, and I'm the founder of Imagination in Space, and we create story-driven pop-ups. I come from a journalism background, and just to go off your point about culture, culture is incredibly important. If you read a book, it depends, do you like Hawthorne's flowery, very overly verbose language, or do you like more of a gonzo journalism short style? Why do we pick up one book versus the other book? I was reading a story in a magazine today called Brooklyn Magazine, which if you guys haven't read it is kind of the ground zero for innovation. It's absolutely amazing to see what's going on around there. If you think about the culture and building the culture, I'm curious whether you guys, any of you have taken money out of advertising and put it into culture building, whether it is creating a second space in your store, a public space in your store, and how that has affected margins, people, social media on their end, so that instead of you broadcasting to them, they're actually capturing the world that you've created for them and sharing it with their friends and then moving outwards.
Yes.
Okay.
Shall we take a last, so we will move on to the next question after the,
Sure, I just wanted to
yes.
have to explain there. So to your point on taking away dollars from advertising and creating that experience, actually I'm Komal Bisharaj, co-founder and CEO of Lumari. We are a fashion brand for professional women, and we offer made-to-measure clothing. We actually did that at our company where we were using Facebook advertising, and I thought there was an opportunity for us to use those dollars in creating a fantastic experience for our existing customer base. So, and creating and having those customers become a brand advocates to have the ripple effect. And over the last 2 months that we've changed that, we've seen fantastic results. So it's just an example of how sometimes you just have to make that call, but when you do that, advertising is not everything, so.
So we'll move on to what are the solutions, best practices that people seem to be moving toward and finding success with.
So what are you using today in your work around retail? Like what are you seeing? Like what have you tried and what didn't work, and what is the best practice that you are using? Micah.
Hi, my name is Micah Kasper-Torch. I'm the CEO and founder of Citybird Registry, which is an online gifting and registry for experiences instead of products. My background is in art and fashion, however, so kind of the transition from product to experiences now that I'm selling, but I'm kind of to piggyback again on kind of this topic that we were just discussing regarding building this experience and kind of environment for customers. I find is a solution that I've seen in the brands that I worked for in the past, and now that I'm trying to implement in my own company, which is there's a lot of products out there, and there's a lot of great products, and why should someone choose your product over another one? And a lot of it is the story that you're telling, the brand that you're building, and why they should connect with you and might connect with you. And I think that's the power. Even though we're an e-commerce site, we try to find ways to connect with the community so that we can show who we are offline as well as online.
Well, first of all, everyone, don't mind my baby voice. I probably have the sweetest voice you've ever heard here this evening. But yeah, so I'm Maya, and I am a fashion entrepreneur. And I guess like my solutions and best practices are from the first question, which was troubles and challenges. I started from zero. I didn't have a background in the fashion industry. And I really wanted to run my own business, and I ended up in fashion. I saw, as a small business starting out, I had a real difficulty seeing that I could apply the business models that big corporations was using, because you just needed another scale to be able to do that. So I started off with one dress in one color, and I walked around to my colleagues, professional women. And that's where my business model actually came about. It's a fitting model, so I do direct sales only, and a certain amount is also online, but otherwise it's customized dresses. And what we do is that we come to people's homes, we come to people's offices, and I noticed that people or customers were actually not afraid of paying up front and actually wait for a good to be delivered. So that was the solution on the scale problem that I saw from the beginning.
Who has a story to share? Who has best practices? You don't want to share your secrets?
This is about as low-tech as you can get, but many pet stores have little corners with chairs and a coffee table and magazines, and they hold community events there. They'll bring a local nutritionist in. That's the space they'll use for a weekend rescue event. And the ones that do it well are doing these all the time, and they have someone dedicated to creating this community building and sharing and relationship building all the time.
There's two over there. Why don't we just work away that?
You can go.
Great. So you're asking what is, my name is Peter Burgess. You're asking what are today's solutions. Well, before that, what are today's problems? I look at the United States, and from a very objective point of view, of course. And the United States consumes twice as much carbon per person as Europe, and 4 times, 5 times as much as China. My question is, how does the retail world get to grips with the fact that our level of waste, our level of crappy product, crappy in the sense that that supply chain mess is totally ignored at the retail level? You've got people like Puma and a lot of the big names where the CEO is talking about the massive amount of work they're doing on responsible supply chains. You go into the retail establishment, you go into the internet, the only thing that is going on is we're going to sell as much as we can, for as much as we can, as fast as we can. There's no sort of, there's no best practice that addresses this.
Does somebody want to respond to this? Does anybody?
Happy to talk, but I'm not going to respond to that because I don't have an answer. So I've got 2 best practices that I'd like to just throw out there. And one is, just sort of solving the problem associated with e-commerce and how e-commerce has affected retailers that have, physical stores. And being in venture capital, we see a lot of pitches. One of the pitches that I think has been, obvious but not really adopted across the board is just, I think, mobile and mobile applications are a very interesting solution to a problem that retailers currently have in terms of just sort of eroding their revenues from an e-commerce standpoint. And bricks and mortar having a mobile presence and having a mobile application and driving sort of the consumers and the buyers to a retail location to basically leverage that mobility because you have that location information is one. I can stop or I can, I'll do this, the second one. The second solution that I'd like to sort of propose out there is that I think there's a lot of retailers out there that are doing e-commerce that are focusing on next step evolution. In other words, what's the nearest neighbor in terms of recommendation solutions out there? I think there's a plethora of solutions out there that I've seen that say, if you buy X, you should buy Y. I think maximizing long-term value and lifetime value is the next iteration of how consumers will be thinking about, what to buy online and what should be recommended to me that is more customized toward what their needs are. And I think there's a host of solutions out there that they can benefit from.
This is the voice over there. We're gonna get started.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Lindsay Harris. I'm project manager for a retail development project at Columbus Circle called Turnstile. You may have seen us in the New York Times last week. We have so many people coming through, but they're rushing to work, they're rushing to get their kids home from school. And so we are looking for a solution on how to slow them down. So we have these columns dotting our corridor, and we are thinking of wrapping them in digital signage. Something like previous speakers were discussing, touch screens or kind of mobile apps up on the screen with local recommendations. So I don't have a solution, that's something we're thinking of, but we don't quite know the technology of what's going to capture your cool young Hearst building worker who's setting the trends at Cosmopolitan. What's really going to capture their attention, and if anyone has any response to that throughout the rest of the forum, I would be delighted.
Anybody?
Piggybacking on what's going to capture attention and what you said about product and what Barry said about community and in-store events, it really is visual delight, boutique environment, romancing the product, romancing the customer, knowing the customer, and creating an experience in the store through the merchandising. And anthropology comes to mind as someone who's doing that really well. But boutiques, that's where boutiques have a strength, independent retail can have a strength.
Hi, I'm Malcolm Elvey. I'm a director of a retail company called Join'em, which is kind of in stealth mode at the moment. But to answer your question about traffic, it seems to me that pop-up stores and pop-up kiosks would be a really good idea because you change the experience for people walking past. Every time you change a kiosk, you can have different products, and pop-up kiosks would be a good idea.
Hey, it's Karen again, Karen Kranick, estaylauder.com. Piggybacking on that idea is really using beacon technology. There's a lot of talk around that. It does require users to have Bluetooth turned on, but it would be a great way to have those interactive kiosks actually broadcasting personalized messages to people as they pass by. Another quick note regarding mobile, I would say designing from a mobile-first point of view is a really great way to sort of succeed with success. Avoid app development. I just saw a statistic that said that 0 people download an app per month on average that they actually use. So I would say avoid apps, go for responsive design, mobile-first design, and drive people to mobile websites.
I think when we are looking at it, looking for the future, the best observation is the past. Looking at, remember when the PC was coming into the retailer, there was a Bell Operating Company like Bell Atlantic tried to sell PC. It's a failure because they retailing that. One of the reasons they give free technical advice. People look at it and they buy a PC clone at the cheaper. But now the success one, if you're looking at it, is really the Apple retail store. Okay, and they leverage the global market. So I think, from the, if you want to have realized the full potential of any product, you have to design for the global marketplace. So that will be the eventual winner for any product. Thank you.
Todd Spearing again, sort of back to this best practices concept. It's probably a very low-tech solution, but I would say listening. My company's made some little pivots, and recently they've benefited us hugely in terms of acquiring new customers, and it's because we've listened to what people actually want. And what we see in the retail world is, people are spending huge amounts of marketing and probably getting less and less ROI for it. And I think it's because they're trying to, can we shout louder? Can we shove this message down your throat? And yet, from our perspective, there's all this user-generated content out there. People want more than anything to have a voice and for someone to listen. And someone mentioned pop-up shops. People say they want experiences. They want to use their mobile device. If you give them an experience and you give them what they're asking for, then they respond very positively. And yet we see that a lot of retailers we talk to say they get more than 50% of their traffic on mobile, yet they haven't really optimized for that mobile commerce process yet. And clearly customers are saying, hey, we want to buy stuff on our phones. You mentioned at the beginning of this whole thing. There's no reason why mobile should be lacking behind computers for this. And so I think just listening to what customers want and then giving them that is a tremendously successful solution.
So I'll just echo, my name is Anthony Sarr, I work for Phygital. We have a platform that helps brands and retailers deliver content to customers' mobile devices. And just to echo what you said, definitely in the conversations that we're having, we're seeing that there are a number of services out there that are kind of blasting people with push notifications. But the retailers understand that they need to build a much more lasting relationship with the customer that starts before they get to the location and then stays with them when they leave. And the only way to do that is through experiential content and content that is both contextual and relevant to those individual customers in that particular location at the particular time. The technology exists to do that, but there is a bit of a lag because for retailers to put those types of experiences in place, they need to build staff and people who can actually create those experiences, and that's where we're seeing the disconnect. They understand they want to do it, but in the same way that nobody had a social media manager 5 or 6 years ago, we're beginning to see people moving towards building experience management teams, and I think you're going to see more of that over time.
Yeah, I think just adding on to that point of listening, I think one of the things I struggle with is, or not struggle with, but trying to decide is, as a new brand is starting out and you have a vision of this customer that you're going after, and when people are telling you so many things, it's like, how do you filter who to listen and who not to listen to? And that's always very confusing because as a startup, you only have so much time and resources. So that's one of the things for me is like, when I get the product feedback, when I get the experience feedback, it's like, who is this person who is actually my customer and how do I filter this feedback? Does this make sense? Or this person is telling me completely different because obviously she is not my target customer. So I think balancing that with knowing exactly who your customer is, I guess, is important. And I don't know if you have best practices here to share.
Let's go there and then
Hello everybody, my name is Sarah. My company just launched an e-commerce website, micmac.com. And I don't exactly have a response, like a best practice, but as far as, I actually do have something to say to Peter's point about consumerism in general and how companies make decisions. A lot of decisions have to be driven by what is profitable. And traditional accounting practices seem to focus on numbers, like what is the bottom line. And oftentimes, if you want to invest in a community, that doesn't take into account the sort of value of time that people put in that's not exactly like immediately able to be monetized. So I feel like I'm throwing a lot of big ideas into here, but to wrap it up, you know, I think we need to refresh accounting practices globally.
I sort of appreciate that. That was not a setup. but you know, there was the idea of listening. And it seems to me that the CEOs of some big companies are actually talking, you know, a very good game. I also think that there is a huge community of millennials that are also wanting to behave in a, you know, in a responsible way. I'm going to be a bit careful because I'm too old to understand millennials, but I know one organization called Fashion for Development, which is, you know, a pretty high level, you know, program to try and get real high fashion that is really responsible all the way through its supply chain. It's a hell of a good story. And it's starting to get into the, you know, into the internet space. And, you know, it really is trying to do extremely good work at the beginning of the supply chain.
So I've been looking for a breakthrough in this space for about 3 years. And I'm hoping somebody will come up with this idea, but there are, you know, it's debatable. 80–90% of commerce happens in store versus online. Let's just say it's 80% for argument's sake. Every single consumer virtually comes in with this very powerful Cray computer from 1990 in their hands in the form of a smartphone. And there is virtually zero engagement between that retailer and that consumer. And it's not for lack of trying. There's lots of companies that have said, I'm going to do eye beaconing, I'm going to do sort of, you know, value added, I'm going to provide some sound, I'm going to let you do QR codes. But almost no one has been able to successfully create value for the consumer. Because the consumer mindset is different at different experience points in the store. In other words, I can go in there and I want to be a surgical buyer one day, I'm looking for product X. You know, another day I'm browsing, another day I'm just, you know, looking for some gift for my wife. The experience that I want to achieve is based upon the value proposition that I want as a consumer. So I think in order to create a fundamentally breakthrough concept for retail, with all of this hardware sitting in the consumer's hands, is for the retailer to crack the code a bit on how to create value for that consumer on a mobile solution. And I don't think it's been done today, and I'm looking for it.
So you mean being more context sensitive?
Completely context sensitive and aware.
Yeah, so we have seen an increasing trend that seems to work, which is some form of customization, increasingly like personal customization. I think Kamal was talking about her product, the best female voice in the world was talking about hers. But we have a couple of companies, for example, one company that allows you to build your own like ski jacket online, picking colors and zippers and fabric and weight. We all know about Warby Parker in glasses, eyeglasses, and that's kind of the ultimate one-on-one consumer experience. And we're seeing companies that we get attracted to are those who have become profitable and can be very scalable in doing, we really call it mass customization, and I think that's just going to become a huge trend.
Hi, my name is Dennis Zinkiewicz. I'm with Markham LLP. I'm a tax accountant. I see a lot of different clients in the retail as well. My really idea is twofold. One is sort of a solution, but that also has a problem. While we talked about that everybody has a cell phone and there's no connection between the retailer and the ultimate consumer, the idea is how do you make that extra sale? How do you make the client actually to engage the transaction? And one of the ideas is there's lots of data out there that is being mined, and people doing facial, various recognition patterns, and trying to figure out what is this worth. So one of the ideas is perhaps there's a way to get some sort of algorithm that will figure out what on the spot, maybe a discount that could be provided to this particular consumer that might be engaged in a search for a particular product. And I'm not talking about the people who are looking for custom experience. I'm talking about the mass consumer who are looking for product X. And the problem with that approach is most of the data is in the hands of very big providers like Google, Facebook, who might not be willing to share.
I just wanted to talk about mass customization. Of course, I'm very passionate about this space. I'm building a company in this space. I think the key to that is also how do you scale mass customization is to control the options you're giving your consumers, understanding who your customer is and know what she or he really cares about. Because once you overwhelm your customer, it's just going to be too much. As a consumer, as an individual, we're making decisions throughout the day. So I think controlling that experience is very, very key to actually scaling mass customization. Just want to add that.
Yes, so this is the baby voice again. But I just want to add to Kamal's point. I think that, I'm very passionate about customization as well, and I think that customization in a way solves sustainability questions as well. I think that there is a need for ready-to-wear as well. But as a small business, it's been very good for us because customization, it doesn't require inventory. There's no clothing that goes to waste in that sense. So people, they order, so either through our fittings in person, or now we've started to move it online as well. So I actually wanted to hear people's comments on what they think about ordering custom clothing online, because for us right now, the customer needs to take their own measurements at home. So there are 7 different measurements that they have to take to order a dress from us. And I just wonder what you guys think, like how can you make that experience easier? Because there's definitely a barrier for the customer to take all those measurements and also to feel secure that it's actually going to fit when it arrives, as in our case, in like 4 weeks to their doorstep. So yeah.
I have an idea. Guide shops, just like bonobos. No, the guide shops. So you have a shop where the customer is.
You have a small location where the customer comes, a fitting room, a pop-up fitting room. Customer comes, you have a specialist who measures that person, because for the average person, it's difficult to measure yourself. And then you have the right information to service that customer. And you invite them in, and it's the experience and the service and the technical help, and then they're, sold.
And there is technology out there that
Am I
helps you.
allowed to endorse
This is the next.
I just want to endorse what she said, because I actually, my first entrepreneurial activity was in the 50s, when we were doing exactly this, to order Hong Kong bespoke things from London. We measured people and sent them mail and got exactly what Madame is talking about.
It's a bonobos. It's a
Bonobos model, but just for women.
Do you want to talk to that? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Javier Fernandez. I'm Director of Retail Strategy for Bonobos. So if you know our business, we started originally as a pure play e-commerce retailer. And because of that, we focused exclusively on product. We came in based on better fitting pants, great success, customers love it, and we started from there. But eventually showrooming found us. Our customers asked to come up to our offices and see the product and try it on. So we developed a showroom, and it's evolved over time. The one thing we haven't cracked yet, which I would love to hear about, is how does technology come into it? Because we have a great technology platform on our e-commerce, and then we have a very old school showroom where you can come and see product in person. But we haven't yet, and I don't think anybody has yet, figured out how you actually connect this great online platform and an old school brick and mortar concept and bridge that gap. in a way that the consumer has a seamless experience. So if anyone has ever had a good in-store technology experience, I would love to hear about it.
Yeah. Okay, please. Ladies first.
Just jumping in only because I also worked at Bonobos as a guide in their guide shop, so I was the one doing the measurements. This was a little while ago, but for me, what I actually saw, what a lot of the customers thought in a way that they were getting was, okay, now all my information is going to be saved in like an online profile for me. And that's not actually the way that it worked, although with the beautiful website and the fact that we had kind of their info to some extent on the back end that should have in a way been available to them. So I think in a way, kind of having these personalized profiles that connect them directly with the store and they feel like they've got their little piece in that environment is something that can be really powerful, and then goes back to everything everyone was saying about listening and feeling like you're creating that space within your brand for that customer to like have their
Thank you. Yeah, Jason Liu, Chairman of General Network Service Inc. I think we're focusing on the breakthrough concepts. I think it's wonderful we picked the background and the vocabulary, taxonomy of all the variables which we are working with between reality and the vision. I think the breakthrough, if you think about tomorrow's the things, I believe is coming from the architecture, organization, of how those individual outfit will be organized together. My personal observation, actually I'm investing in many companies, is the Americans gone through a revolution, also capitalistic and also the networks. I think you're just looking at the GE versus the mutual fund, also the private equity. Essentially the link between the successful, the more autonomous, the distributed, the entities, they share certain kind of traits which can be multiplied, self-similarity or the scalability. And I think that revolution in the organization of how the distribution nodes combined with the architecture, with the interaction between capital and also the human interaction with the product and experiences. I think that breakthrough concept were coming from that area. Thank you.
I'm Daniela Morales. I'm founder of Deep Brand. We provide branding, marketing, and creative direction to our clients. And I found really interesting what you said, because I think one of the solutions in retail is to not just customer satisfaction, but also to focus on customer service and brand experience. Because, for example, if you look at Apple, it's fantastic the fact that you can buy a laptop, right, or iPhone, and you go to a Genius Bar and you have someone there, right? You book a time online and you have someone there, like just, like available, to attend you. There's no one competitor that offers something like Apple. And, Apple nowadays is one of the biggest brands. Other cases, other example would be Starbucks. I remember in the very beginning, I used to go to a coffee shop. They would even call my name. Like, oh, hi, Daniela, this is your coffee, this is your cappuccino. So this is an amazing brand experience. And I think most of the companies, they focus a lot on advertising, right? Or retail experience, but they forget the customer experience after the sale. So, yeah, just something to think about.
Final comment.
Yeah.
Oh, you are.
Quick observation about tomorrow's breakthrough concept. I'm very interested, as you may have gathered, on the whole issue of not only the profit of a product, but the impact of a product on society. And I think that the story about a product is going to be a click away. At the moment, 100% of big data is being used to push selling the product, which is fine, but nothing is really being done to push in front of us the impact of that product on society. And we can make a huge difference to where we are if we have that data in front of every consumer every time they're thinking about doing a purchase. Especially in food, perhaps, and beverages, and all of the things we stick inside us, which ought to be doing as good, but is probably doing as bad.
We could have a service.
So,
you know the social cost of what you just bought.
Exactly.
So I just want to address Malcolm's comment, with which I totally disagree. The reason Apple is great is, I think there's a couple reasons. One is because they make the greatest products on the planet, far and away. I mean, maybe Samsung is pretty good, but if you look at the number of iPhones, iPods, iPads, whatever, they're selling, you know, hundreds of millions, and they figured out how to get them to talk to each other. So everybody knows they're great products. The Genius Bar, somebody mentioned the Genius Bar and the customer experience. If you look at the number of Apple users who ever walk into a store, it's probably like 1% of all the Apple owners in the world ever walk into a store. If they had no stores at all, granted they are the highest productivity per square foot, but they're great products. And if you know, some of us in this room, maybe, could probably have run Apple retail because it wasn't that hard. When you have a product like Apple has, it basically sells itself. If Ron Johnson was that good, he wouldn't have gone to JCPenney and, you know, fallen flat on his face. So again, I think that the customer, understanding what the customer wants and what the customer will pay for is really important. But again, I just don't want it to I don't think it should take a back seat to what it is that you're selling.
So we've had a lot of ideas here. Why don't you synthesize, you know, does anybody want to try and put this together? What can we put these things together to make a total experience?
Hi, Trey Bodge again with Retail Me Not. I did want to go back really quickly to the customization aspect for you in particular, because actually Estee Lauder is doing something interesting that I think is really working. Prior to Retail Me Not, I ran a custom blended beauty company called 3 Custom Color Specialists, and we really struggled with scalability because it was all handmade. Prescriptives was our competitor at the time, and obviously they shut down and they came back. What Prescriptives is doing that I think is really interesting is video chat. And I tested out the service. I was, you know, had a bad attitude about it. I was convinced that it wasn't going to work, but it did. And that might be something for you, utilizing the internet, utilizing experts that can video chat with the consumer to help them measure properly. And then you can get those accurate measurements. And then to answer the current question, just wanted to talk about seamless shopping a little bit. At Retail Me Not, we conduct surveys every single month with consumers to find out what they want. And what they want is they want to shop wherever they want, whenever they want, whatever way they want. So if there's a way that you can replicate what's working in your stores and do that online by offering video chat, customer service, ship to store, ship from store, in a way that creates that 360 experience for the consumer, that to me would be a way to succeed in today's retail world.
The advent of all this digital technology has meant that I can have a lot of my needs met immediately, and that doesn't happen in the store environment. So that's one of the reasons why people move to e-commerce. It's much easier for me to find my size at a variety of different stores than it is to find a person in Neiman Marcus sometimes. So, and if it happens at Neiman Marcus, you know it's happening at JCPenney and at Kohl's and anywhere else. But it seems to me we keep looking for a silver bullet, and retail, part of the reason people shop, it's like Rick Caruso said at the NRF this year, it's a social experience. We want to go to the market to see what's available, to see what people are wearing, to share ideas, to share product, to meet one another, you know? And we can't solve this by writing code. We solve this by being with one another in environments. And maybe video chat would make a difference, but you know, where retailers are falling down is they're not putting enough money in the stores to provide the service that people want. They're putting all the money in online, which will not meet all our needs. That's it.
2 years ago, I listened to Sam Lessin speak at South by Southwest,
And he said a really interesting concept to me that has stuck with me, that the rich will not own things and that the poor will own things. And you see that in Uber, you see that in the services where you rent the runway. And I think it has some interesting implications for sustainable development within retail too. And I don't know how it exactly plays off, but the rich will not own and the poor will own. I think it's really, really interesting. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Hi, my name is Jeff Broadley, and I'm with a venture capital firm called Centripetal Capital. In listening to the dialogue, I find it interesting that the synthesis, to some extent, was broadcast, if you will, some 30 years ago when Richard Nesbitt put out a book called Megatrends. And in that book, he spoke about the divergence between high tech and high touch. And that's where we are, I think, at this point. So you speak about product that Richard was speaking about and experience that Malcolm was speaking about. And I think that's where we are, so that the e-tailers have to do that which they do best, which is efficient product delivery at the best prices, and the retailers, the bricks and mortars, have to do that which they do best and can do the best, which is that high touch component. And so perhaps the synthesis, if you will, is in the integration of the two for those companies that have both bricks and mortar and clicks. So do what you do best. Provide the experience, provide the best online experience as well.
Well, I would add that e-commerce companies could do a lot better on high touch, because like you get the option to chat, but chatting is almost horrible in terms of its user experience. There are much better ways to do online.
Well, getting to the comment that code can't solve it, yeah, I think it can actually go a long way. If every time before someone made a comment here, I had to pay them $1. I mean, your comment's been worth far more than $1, but just that kind of awkward thing, do I take out my credit card, do I pay you $1 bill? It's going to get in the way of that relationship. I just want to sit back and, I can't remember how much this event cost, I just want to go and listen to interesting people. I think if you look at, say, what Starbucks has done in particular, and Square has enabled this, and I mean, it's possibly where Apple Pay will be going, where you see technology operating in the background so that you can even determine what you want in advance by the time you get there. Like, you can just have that face-to-face conversation, right? You can get to know the barista, the shopkeeper, and have something that where money's not in the way. I think that's where a lot of future retail and that blend of mobile is going to go, and just make retail far more human, and that to me is really exciting.
Hey, Todd Spearing here again. On this synthesis, and actually what you mentioned about the joy of showrooming, and I'm hoping this will also be a breakthrough, but we're about to do a pop-up shop where you won't be able to buy anything there. So it's with a British fashion e-com retailer, and they're going to do a pop-up here in the city, and we'll help them so you can take pictures of everything you're wearing, and if you feel like buying it after the fact, you can, but you're taking the pressure of some salesperson trying to sell you this right here and now out of the picture. You can make up your own mind after the fact because it's all recorded, and you can just go online and buy everything. But they're actually sort of combining that high touch with e-com and really leveraging the best of showrooming and doing it in a pop-up context where it's limited time there makes it a lot more experiential. And then because some of those people are going to be really enthusiastic about it and they're going to be sharing pictures of stuff they wear, other people will be able to buy them as well. And I think it combines together a lot of these different elements to give a little bit of the best of e-com with a little of the best of bricks and mortar.
Anybody?
I think this is a very big topic. I try to be very simple. I think if you're looking at it throughout the human history, essentially people organize to achieve certain kind of mission, either military or political or business. For business, try to maximize the return on investment. I think if you're looking from that point of view, just like looking at all type of networks, telecommunication network, and retail network, distribution network, if you define the mission of a particular mission you want to design, and you find out what the best organization can deliver that, more advanced, sophisticated value systems such as high touch, low touch, and experience. If you define that very well defined, then you try to mobilize the technology to support that delivery. Whoever can design the best organization and also can transition very dynamically to meet the very quick changing requirement of the society will be the winner. So I think that's how I would summarize, the winning strategy.
So there's been so much stuff. I have a lot of thoughts on everything that's been said, but I want to go back to, actually, I thought that was a really interesting quote about the rich will not own things and that the poor will. And being now in a company that is selling experiences over products, one of the reasons that we got into that is, and it's not because I think people will not own things in the future necessarily, but because the social status now that comes with this very integrated kind of Facebook, Instagram, especially all the photo sharing, Pinterest, which is very kind of aspirational, but it's no longer, the measure of success isn't necessarily I have this, 5-bedroom house and 2 cars and a 2-car garage. For a lot of these upcoming generations, it's I've, traveled abroad, or now I went to this really cool, I experienced something really great and I want to share that through social media. It's less about the stuff necessarily, and therefore how can these companies that are selling products still turn that into an experience? And I think the term that I had heard in a talk by an author named James Waldman called experientialism, that kind of young people are interested in this idea of experientialism, but I think that can translate into products. And when I worked at some retail companies, I worked for Coach for some time, and I think that there was some, they had some trouble with that at some point because, again, going back to another topic, that they were showing as kind of having one customer, but their true customer was someone else, and they were satisfying that customer, and then they were losing the more aspirational customer. And then I think a brand like Bonobos that I then also worked for, I think that brand loyalty was really important, and kind of, again, through this experience of participating with the brand and the product, that to me is really fascinating, whether it's through online, through pop-ups and whatnot. So.
Hi, I'm Dana Ostamel. I'm the founder of the crowdfunding website depositgift.com. And something that you said made me think. You were talking about the idea of technology, maybe relationships or interpersonal experiences. So Deposit Gift, we've been live for about 5 years, and it's been an interesting evolution because when we started off as a cash gift registry service. This is before crowdfunding even was a concept. And people were just clamoring for a polite way to ask for cash gifts towards more than just honeymoons. So that's what we came on the scene to sort of disrupt that. And it's interesting because what I find is that it's really all about the story. So when you're talking about technology running in the background, I see our platform, our technology as a way to enable people to share, and you relate a little to this, what is most important, what is going on in their life, what would be most meaningful to them at this moment, and often it's really bigger things like goals and dreams. So it's sort of, what you said tipped me off, but I'm also thinking about the fact that we're here, we're talking about retail and stuff, and yet we're also seeing, backlash might be too strong of a word, but a response to maybe not wanting so much stuff. And so what we're doing is really helping people sort of focus and put the power in the consumer's hands so that they have the money to spend it how they wish, but their friends and family are a part of that journey because they know what it's about. It's not just cash for cash's sake. So it's sort of the technology aspect, facilitating that, and then also just taking in the what's going on, I think, in the social milieu of not wanting so much stuff.
So it's getting late.
Oh yeah, sure. So 3 kind of synthesis points. I think the first one is companies should, or I think increasingly will look at technology to make their own jobs and their own tasks faster. I mean, looking out around the room here, Peter and I have the same jacket. Everyone else is wearing something different. I don't think we have any issues finding exactly what we need very quickly. So if we could have the people in the store spending less time tracking numbers, coming up with beacons, coming up with beacons and being in the back of the store and instead being in the front of the store, that's going to help pull people in. The second part is, for lack of a better term, efficient pampering. All the events that we do, I'm working on a 5-borough pop-up tour with the New York City Economic Development Corporation. A lot of it is around makers and manufacturers, doing events in these rough spaces. Every single event, we serve Prosecco. Every single event, we have flowers in the bathrooms, and we have flowers in kind of, not dark spots, but untended to spots. And people notice a difference. And flowers cost $3, and Prosecco costs $11 wholesale, retail $6 wholesale. The third part is the collaboration. There's actually an arts company called Paddle 8. They did more revenue in Q1 this year than they did in all of 2013. And granted, they are a growing brand and they are a bit of retail, but you see it so well in the art world. You see different curators, you see it at museums now. It's a different voice on the same subject.
So, okay, we're getting toward the end. The final segment we want to do just briefly is surprises, new or changed ideas. Did you learn anything today that surprised you? Anything that sparked new ideas, changing perspective? I'll just open it up with a very quick comment. My surprise was 2 weeks ago or so, we had an event here called User Experience. It seems like we've just continued the event,
Yeah.
which really isn't a surprise.
And she was there to be excellent.
So, you know, who else
Any
has
surprises?
thoughts about surprises, changed ideas or perspectives?
Oh, and excellent mic handing over work today, guys. Like, really, give yourself a round of applause. Please.
You know, I'm not sure whether it's a new idea or, you know, anything has changed my perspective. I guess I'm awfully worried. You know, just now you had the phrase, you know, how to improve tomorrow's business. Well, you know, are you defining tomorrow as, you know, the next quarter, or are we describing tomorrow 25 years out, 50 years out? My dream is that business is going to be dramatically different 10 years from now than it is now. At the moment, the only thing that we are interested in is really corporate profit, and we're not really interested in the we're only interested in the customer because the customer is the source of that profit. I think that, you know, we only do accounting for the organization. We don't do accounting for the person. We don't do accounting for society. We don't do accounting for any of the things that really matter. And I think that's going to change. And I think that's going to change very, very fast. And I think it's going to be enabled by incredible technology. You know, you heard me last time talking about me installing a computer with 4K of memory. Now we've got 4G of telephone, 1 million times more powerful. Come on, lads, what can we really do with that?
Somebody behind you.
I have to disagree with you because I think, on the positive side, I think we are achieving enormous things today, and there is a trend amongst young people in particular to do good. There's much more of an awareness of what green really means. There are so many more young people going and doing good, spending large chunks of their productive years giving back, which in my youth growing up didn't happen. There's much more of an awareness, I think, and I think it's a fast-growing trend. B corporations, somebody referred to it earlier, I think that's a huge trend, and I think more and more of that is happening. So I'm much more positive.
Well, I'm optimistic.
So we may not account for people and for cultures, but the mere fact that we account the transactions that people make and they're based on people's choices, aren't we in fact accounting for people?
I think what's the new idea, changing perspectives, besides product experience, essentially is humanity, human-centric, you say. But from that point of view, you're looking at how do you define retail business? What is a product? What's a service? There's certain kind of natural boundaries. Ultimately, it's not that easy to converge. For example, if the hospital, as a healthcare delivery, as a retail, can that be, changed overnight? I doubt it. The reason is because we need regulations to protect human life. So I think from what I learned here today, I can see that certain things can be converged, consolidated, but there are certain other things, category, which may not change overnight. That's what I get away. Thank you.
Any other final words? Over there. Oh, I have a
Hi, my name is John. I'm in banking, but I'm also a customer. If you really want to attract my attention, is if all of you have great ideas. Only thing I see is a little bit of fragment. Kind of everyone's doing their own thing. So my idea and my perception is that I go into a store, I get a coupon. Oh, I'm excited. Go into a store, it doesn't have my size. No problem. The salesperson says, we can mail it to you and deliver it. Oh, by the way, what are your measurements? I sent him a file with all my measurements. Great, we'll send you and tailor it for you at this cost. Great, I don't even have to do anything. It mails it to me, comes home, delivers it to my home, and I wear it the next day. That's what I think should be a synergy of all your ideas into working without the brick and mortar presence. At the end of the day, customized can be mass market. Just the question is, who's willing to budge? By the way, we need corporate profits. That's what makes the world go around.
Jan Grégoire, founder of Shopper, a startup whose mission is to improve customer experience using technology. On the topic of people against technology, we've been going around in stores telling them how, trying to basically, there's a lot of education that needs to be done, I think, towards educating people running stores on how they can actually leverage technology to keep their human interaction. And there is a place, there is a synergy that's possible between people and technology where they can actually cohabit and make everyone win. The customer can win using technology, the store can win, and the human experience, the human factor can still be there. And I don't think it's mutually exclusive, basically.
And I think these are wonderful final remarks. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for all the wonderful kind people. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think you will feel.